Hi, Rose Reporter readers. Today, I'm your sports reporter icon, Jackie MacMullan. Hi, Miss MacMullan.
How are you,
Thank you for
Shayna?
this interview. I really appreciate it.
I am so happy to be with you. I think you're more famous than I am.
I think you are. Who are your role models?
Well, you know, growing up, believe it or not, even though I'm a woman, my role model was my dad. And you know why that is?
Why?
So when I was young, probably about your age, I really liked to read and I really liked to play sports. But every time I picked up the newspaper, the only people that ever wrote stories were men. And I used to complain about that a lot. So my dad said to me, you know, all you do is complain about it. Why don't you do something about it? I said, well, I'm 10 years old or I'm 12 years old. What am I supposed to do? He said, call up the paper and ask them why they don't cover the girls' sports. So I said, well, sure, I'm going to do that after dinner. And he said, no, you're going to do it right now. And he stood right there and made me make that phone call. And so the editor's name was Frank Wall, and he said to me, I don't cover girls because I don't have anybody to do it. Do you want to do it? I said, well, I'm 12. He said, well, if it stinks, I won't use it. And he let me...
Is that how you got started?
That's how I got started.
It's a very interesting story.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
What is the best part of your job, and what is the most challenging part?
Well, the best part is I get to go to every major sporting event.
Yes.
I've been to the World Series, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA Finals, the Olympics, the Women's Tennis Championships, the Women's U.S. Open Golf, the Boston Marathon when Joan Benoit won that. That was one of my favorite moments, so that's the best part.
It must be amazing.
It is amazing, but the challenging part is you get to know these athletes that you cover, and you get to like some of them, quite a lot of them. And sometimes you have to write things that they don't like, because my job is to tell the truth and to be what we call objective, which means even though I really like somebody, if they make a mistake or they're not doing well, I have to be ready to write that. And that's the most challenging part, because we're all human and we all like to get along. You like people to like you, but when you have to write something that doesn't make them very happy, that's hard to do.
Yes, it sounds hard.
It is hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just saw you on TV being honored for your work on Title IX. Can you tell me what Title IX is?
Sure. So in 1972, there was a law that was passed that said that there can be no discrimination in the workplace. So what that means is it really wasn't meant for sports or sports writers. It was meant in the world, in the jobs, everyday jobs, any job you can think of. But the way it was implemented was with college athletics, because every female athlete needed to have the same equal opportunity as a male athlete. And in almost every situation in high schools and colleges, the schools always spent much more money on the men. So this was the equal footing given to the women. So they would get the same amount of money for their sports as the men would for their sports. And then the trickle down of that was someone like me, who wanted to be a sports writer and wanted to cover sports, had to have all the same opportunity as men. That meant access to the locker room. It meant pay, the way I should be paid for my job. So it was a really, really big deal for young women and girls who were interested in sports.
Yes. It must be upsetting to not be treated fairly as men.
It's true, but you know, I was really lucky because my first job was at the Boston Globe newspaper. And I worked for a bunch of people, all men, I was the only woman at that time, that really believed in me and believed in what I was doing. And so I never felt like a second-class citizen there. And then, when I got older and I got to cover the NBA, the National Basketball Association, the commissioner there was someone named David Stern, and he very strongly believed in equal opportunities for women. And so he made sure that I got treated the way I should be treated. And I'm always very grateful to Mr. Stern for that.
You must be proud that you were the only girl at the Boston Globe.
Well, I was, but I wasn't the first one. There was a woman before me named Leslie Visser who was very talented, and there have been plenty of women after me too. At that time, I was the only woman. But you know what was nice?
What?
There was a woman at the Boston Herald, which was our competing newspaper, and her name was Karen Garigian, and she's still there. And she was terrific, and we were the same age. And she covered mostly hockey, and I covered mostly basketball. But we became great friends. So I had someone to talk to if things weren't going well or if someone had given me a hard time, and so I was very glad about that.
Yes, she sounds like a great friend.
She is a great friend, and you know what else? She's a great journalist, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is something hardly anyone knows about you?
You promise not to tell anybody?
Yes.
I have 6 toes on my left foot.
Whoa.
You want me to show you? No,
Okay.
I can't show you. Can I? I can't show you. But I do. Trust me, you'll just have to take my word for it.
Yes.
They call it a polydactyl.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's a little weird, but that's something that not very many people know about me. But you know who does know it?
Who?
So there was a guy that played for the Celtics. His name was Ray Allen. He was a great shooter. In fact, he's the greatest three-point shooter in history. He shot more three-pointers than anybody. And I was in the locker room once with him, and my colleague, Dan Shaughnessy, who also works at the Boston Globe, said to Ray in front of him to embarrass me, "Ray, do you know Jackie has 6 toes?"
Huh?
And Ray said, "Really?" And I said, "Oh, Dan, why are you telling him this?" And Ray said, "Jackie, you've always asked me a bunch of really embarrassing questions. It's nice for me to get to ask you some for a change." So he started asking me, "Were you born with it? Do you have 2 toenails on?" Because it's 2 toes that are kind of stuck together. So I ended up telling Ray Allen my whole story about my 6 toes, and then he said, "I want to see it."
Uh-oh.
And so I had to take off my shoe and show him, because Ray was right. He did tell me a lot of his secrets that I published in the newspaper, so it just seemed only fair.
But it makes you unique.
Yes, it does make me unique. Thank you.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
saying that.
What is your proudest professional moment?
My proudest professional moment. Well, I was very fortunate in 2010 to receive the Kurt Gowdy Award, which is given to a person who shows excellence, lifetime achievement in covering basketball. And it's our Basketball Hall of Fame. It's run by the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. And so my proudest moment was to be there with my husband and my 2 children, and my best friend and her husband, and my sister and her family, my parents, who were elderly, but they came. And I got that award. But the most exciting part was Charles Barkley and Larry Bird flew into the Hall of Fame a night early to see me get that award. So that made me feel very proud.
Yes, that should make you feel proud.
And yeah, they're good guys, those 2. They're crazy, both of them, but they're good. I like them.
Did you always know you wanted to be a sports writer?
You know what, Shayna? I think I did, because when I was younger, I used to, this is silly, but I used to throw pillows to myself and jump on my bed and catch them like I was a NFL receiver, which of course I was never going to be. And I played all sports all through high school. I was a track and field runner, and I played basketball, and I played field hockey. And I just always loved the newspapers. My dad was from New York City, and he was a salesman, and he traveled a lot. And he would come home with newspapers from all over the country. And so I just loved reading those newspapers. But the rule in my house was you had to read the rest of the paper first and then the sports section.
Oh.
That was my dad's rule. That's a good rule, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always end my interviews with the question, what is your favorite meal and dessert?
My favorite meal. Wow, I have so many to choose from. But you know what I really love?
What?
I love a piece of grilled swordfish with a little bit of marinade on there and some lemon and some broccoli. Ooh, that's my favorite. And my favorite dessert is most definitely a hot fudge sundae. And I hardly ever have it because it has so many calories. A hot fudge sundae with mint chip ice cream, whipped cream, no nuts, no cherry.
Now that's a dream dessert.
Isn't that a dream dessert? It is. You're a dream reporter, young lady.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I've never tried the swordfish, except I'll take your word for it.
Okay, I want you to go home and try swordfish. You promise?
Yes.
All right, that's a deal.
Thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
my compliment.
So nice to meet you,
I
sweetie.
really appreciate your time.
Oh, you're good. You're good at what you do. I'm going to see you in a press box
You're good
someday.
at what you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.